Let's talk about plagiarism in MLA. Plagiarism is derived from the Latin word which means to kidnap. When you plagiarize, you take someone else's ideas and present those ideas as your own. Plagiarism is a serious offense. A minimum, you will probably receive a 0 on the work. However, many schools have plagiarism policies, which may include failing the course and expulsion. In the professional world, plagiarism easily means loss of employment and possible legal action. There are 2 types of plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism is blatant disregard for the rules of copyright laws. For example, downloading a paper from the internet. Unintentional plagiarism means not giving a source credit as a result of sloppy research. An example of this is acknowledging but not properly citing a source. Some examples of plagiarism include presenting the work of others as your own work, downloading material from the internet without any acknowledgement, using the ideas or words you find in a print or web source without acknowledging where those ideas or words come from, and forgetting to add a citation to ideas and words that are not your own. So how do you avoid plagiarism? Do not rely too heavily on one source. If you do, you may begin to use that person's thoughts as your own. Organization is important. Keep accurate records while doing research, and take notes with the systematic method of indicating quotation, paraphrase, summary, or your own comments. If you don't, you may lose track of where an idea came from. Make a copy of each source so you have the information you need for appropriate documentation. When using a book, also copy the title page, which includes the necessary information for a works cited entry. Print out any online source that you use. Note the date that you viewed it, and note the complete web address for correct citation. Never use exactly the same sequence of ideas and organization of argument as a source. When you use a single key word, or 3 or more words from your source, put quotation marks around it and document it accordingly. Always cite a summary or paraphrase. Never simply substitute synonyms for a few words in the source or just move words around. Never include in your essay a passage or idea that you have copied from someone else without acknowledging and documenting the source. And please use the appropriate documentation style. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. The Modern Language Association focuses on literature and language. Its writing style, known as MLA, is used as a standard for assignments by English and other liberal arts teachers. Strictly following the MLA style will minimize students' chances of plagiarism by presenting proper documentation of sources. Documentation provides readers with details about where to find the source used in an essay. Readers are more likely to accept your claims or consider your argument if you have documented evidence. MLA has 2 components for documentation. The first is in text citations. These are parenthetical references to the source used for quotes, summaries, and paraphrases. Then you have the works cited page. This is detailed information regarding the in-text citations. MLA dictates that all sources, ideas, quotes, opinions, facts, statistics, that are not considered common knowledge must be cited. Common knowledge is just information that an audience could be expected to know. Citation is not necessary for facts regarded as common knowledge. For example, George Washington was the first president. That's common knowledge. But if I wanted to talk about George Washington's first speech that he made, that is not common knowledge, and you would need to cite it. The number 1 rule, if in doubt, cite it. In-text citations for quotes. Here are the rules. All quotes should be introduced, placed in quotation marks, and followed by the in-text citation enclosed in parentheses. Notice that the period follows the parentheses. Here's an example. Armstrong calls Glaser, quote, "the best friend that I ever had," end quote. Quoted in Jones and Chilton 16. The phrase, Armstrong calls Glaser, is the introduction for the quote. Notice that the in-text citation tells the reader that this quote came from material written by Jones and Chilton and can be found on page 16. There must be a corresponding works cited entry for Jones and Chilton. Here are the rules for in-text citations for paraphrases and summaries. Introduce the material, but do not place it in quotation marks. Here's an example. According to John Smith, a doctor of psychology at Yale University, the REM cycle of sleep is the most beneficial sleep cycle we have because we are engaged in a deep sleep. 15. Notice that this in-text citation has not documented an author's name. That is because the author has been named in an introductory phrase, according to John Smith. So the only documentation needed is the page number that it is found on, 15. If you introduce the quote without using the author's name, then you include the author's last name and the page number in the citation. Notice that there is no comma between the author's last name and page number. Laura hopes that she will, quote, be less freakish, end quote, Williams, 720. Any source that you use as evidence in your essay must also be included on a works cited page. The works cited page is a detailed listing of all the works you cited in your essay. Do not include works that you read and decided not to use. Consult the current MLA handbook, a textbook with a section on MLA style, or a reputable website such as OWL at Purdue for assistance in formatting the page. Here are some general rules for formatting the works cited page. Begin the list on a new numbered page after the last page of the essay. For example, if your essay is 6 pages long, your works cited page is page 7. Center the title, Works Cited, without quotation marks or underlining. Double space the entire list. List the works alphabetically by the author's last name. Do not number the entries. If there is no author, list the work alphabetically according to the title. If an entry is longer than one line, indent every line after the first by 1/2 inch, which is basically 5 spaces or 1 tab. This format is called a hanging indent. Specific information and punctuation is required for different source types. Verify that the entry is correct with the MLA handbook or other trusted source for MLA. And here is an example of a works cited sheet. Notice we have Armstrong, comma Louis, Brown, comma Peter A. You can see that it is done alphabetically. You can see that it's a true double space. You can also see that your works cited is not in any different type of font, color, size. It's the same as the rest of the paper. So double check your MLA information and make sure that you're following the punctuation rules. Notice there's a comma and a period, and here are some parentheses. Make sure that you follow these rules.